Alright, this is Chat UTD. It's a shame about Onana last night because I thought the team played really well, particularly in the second half, and we were worthy of a win, I think. And it would have been a really strong position to take back to Old Trafford, obviously, if we'd have come back with an advantage. I still think we'll go through, but it obviously makes it a much more nervous occasion on Thursday now, and I'm not sure I completely trust this team to get the job done. Um, I thought, in terms of the players, Yoro was probably the best player on the pitch. Mazraoui was excellent. Bruno, again, fantastic. I thought he ran the show, showed great quality and leadership over the last 2 or 3 months for me. Bruno, really consistent. And again, last night, he was excellent. Dorgu gives us real balance on that left hand side. I like his energy, his endeavour. Far from the finished article, but certainly gives us a real a natural kind of balance, as I say, on that left hand side. Dalot looks far better on the right, so it's two for the price of one with Dorgu. Not only does it help us on the left, but it brings Dalot back to his favoured position. Mainu looked decent when he came on. Xerxes was good. Casemiro was decent. Maguire was okay, pretty good. It's good that we don't miss De Ligt too much because I thought we would. It tends to be the way it's been this season. If a couple of centre backs have been missing, other centre backs have stepped into their place. And with Heaven making such an impression when he came in, he's injured. That was a big blow. De Ligt is a massive blow because he's been one of our best players this season. And then you've got Maguire's come back from injury, so too is Yoro, and those two are both doing really well. So I thought the second half in particular was really good from United. And it's, as I say, it's such a shame that we didn't win the game exclusively because of the goalkeeper. And I'm going to talk about him again in a minute, but the other two players who perhaps didn't shine so much, well, I say so much, I'm being kind. I don't know what you do with Højlund because he offers absolutely nothing at the moment. It's like playing without anybody up there. He's just a body, really, who runs around and doesn't really run around that much. And when he does, it's not with any strategy or purpose. It's just like a blue arse fly. Doesn't hold the ball up, doesn't link play. People can say he doesn't get a lot of service, but he doesn't make dynamic movements to get service. When he gets the ball, he loses it really easily. He's just absolutely null and void at the moment. There's no impact. He has no impact on the team or on the games whatsoever. Now, a year ago, I'd have said there's a player there because we had evidence to suggest there was. But watching him struggle so much this season means it's hard to kind of continue with that argument that, you know, is there even a player there? Certainly, I don't think it's a debate to say whether or not he should lead the line for Man United. He shouldn't. But can he salvage something here? The problem we've got in terms of the bigger picture is we paid 72 million quid for him just shy of 2 years ago. What's he worth in the market now? 30 million? Is the people go, you're gonna have to sell him? It's not as simple as that. The club are not going to go, we paid 72 million pound for him 2 years ago. We're going to sell him for 30, less than half. But the problem is, he was probably worth between 40 and 50. I never got it at the time, and I certainly don't get it now. Never the pedigree of player that you should have paid that amount of money for. And it's coming back to bite us in the arse, isn't it? And Garnacho's a player I really like, and I think has massive potential. There's two issues for me. He doesn't really fit in the system. I think he's far better when he's out wide, like his feet touching the chalk out wide, where he can just take players on and try and skin them. In this system, he's not got the discipline to play as a wing back, and he's not got enough guile to play in that role in behind the striker, in my opinion. And I don't think he brings the best out in him. The other issue we've got with him is his decision making, and part of that is his age. I mean, that could change with age, but he tends to make the wrong decision too often. He's certainly very inconsistent with his decision making. When he receives the ball, his first movement with the ball is often really dynamic and it puts him into a really good position, but then his next decision is often wrong. A case in point is the moment at the start of the derby, where his first touch and his first movement is electric, and I look at that and I'm like, he's in on goal, and his next touch just takes him into trouble. And more recently, in particular, when I noticed that if perhaps he should go inside, he tends to go outside. If he perhaps should go outside, he turns inside. He tends to turn into trouble. If he should pass it, he shoots. If he should shoot, he passes it. Although that's not, it's more that he shoots when he should pass. But again, that could be an age thing. But the problem regarding his future at United is that INEOS will see him as a sellable commodity that they'll get decent money for. I see him as an academy product that I'd love to see stay and nurtured and be nurtured and maybe have a really, really amazing future at United potentially. Maybe not, but certainly there's an option that could happen in the right environment. But INEOS won't see it that way. He's a player who doesn't fit the system, who's really inconsistent. That's the way they'll look at it. And I'm getting to the point now where I'd be quite surprised if he's still here next season, which is a shame. And then I've saved the worst to last. When United signed Onana, I was really excited because I'd watched him in the Champions League final for Inter Milan against Man City, where, for my money, he ran the game as a goalkeeper. I couldn't judge him on his shot stopping because City barely had a shot, but his use of the ball and he dictated the pace of the play. It was like he's going to be a transformative goalkeeper for us. Again, having not seen what he was like at shot stopping. Granted, he had better players around him at Inter Milan. But in 2 years, what I've seen from him is a goalkeeper that makes a lot of mistakes, elementary mistakes, big mistakes at big times. I'd say he's got a questionable mindset and temperament in terms of the psychology of the game. He tends to make these mistakes on big occasions, in Europe in particular. His feet are all wrong, the position of his feet. His geography in his goal is shocking. If it's low down, he can't get to it because of his physique. If it's anything outside of his wingspan, he doesn't save it. And really, all those things are fundamental to being a modern day goalkeeper. So you think, okay, if he's not good at all those things, is he a ball playing goalkeeper? Because that's essentially the main skill set that we've bought him for. No, he's not. He just gets the ball and punts it. And I'm not talking about intricately playing it out from the back, because that's not the way we play. But when I watched him for Inter Milan, he was pinging 50-yard balls accurately, like a quarterback, accurately to the wing. He did it once last night. Excuse me. And I thought, that's the first time I've seen him do that in weeks, months, probably. And he doesn't even do that. So he's a liability. That's a word that's been used a lot recently in relation to him. He's a liability. And the mistake he made last night, the first goal, let's go through it. For the first goal, I'm not being facetious when I say this. If I put my under 10 goalkeeper in goal, he'd do better. It's not remotely difficult to save that. That is a proper clanger. And you're essentially giving up a goal in a tie where, I mean, all right, there was 4 goals last night, but over the whole tie there might only be, let's say, 4 or 5 goals. You've just given up one. So it completely changes the dynamic of the game. So that's the first goal. Shocking error. The second goal's not as bad, but he palms it out into a dangerous area. And then, just as bad for me is what he does next. So does he get up and go and try and clear house and be brave? And if you get injured, you get injured. No, he's sort of like, he gets up and he's like that. Star shape it. Go out and make yourself as big as possible. If you get kicked, you get kicked. You made the mistake in the first place. So effectively, last night, I think Lyon were well worth at least one goal just in their general play. But maybe even two. But we were worth probably 3 or 4 goals in our general play as well. So on merit, we win that game last night. We don't score many goals. We're, in Europe, away from home, we've scored 2 goals, which we don't do all that often, which is obviously the bigger problem. But we've scored 2 goals, and we still don't win the game. Not because we haven't played well, not because the tactics were wrong, not because we've been outplayed or we've been overcome by the atmosphere or anything like that. Because the goalkeeper has cost us. And the first goal in particular leads to conversations like, I saw something yesterday, has he been at the bookies? Is there something going on here? That's how bad it is. Now, it's a joke. I don't genuinely think that's the case. But when you're thinking, is he a plant? Have Liverpool put him in there? Because that's how bad it is. And he is a liability. And as I say, I was really optimistic when he came in, but there's no way he can be our goalkeeper next season. And I would go further than that and say there's no way he should be our goalkeeper next week. Bayender is a number 2 goalkeeper. He's not a number 1 goalkeeper, and I don't think he's that good. But I think he's better than Onana at present in this situation. So, as I say, it's a real shame, and I can see Amrin's footprints on this team now a little bit more. Like at the start of the game, for example, when the atmosphere was roaring and Lyon were energetic and full of enthusiasm and they were huffing and puffing at the start of the game. In that situation, under Ten Hag, under Ollie, and under Jose, actually, in away games, how many times did that happen where we then conceded an early goal? And we didn't do that last night. Not only that, we gained control of the game and created a couple of chances. How many times as the second half wears on and we haven't taken our chances like last night, did the other team then score like last season with Eric Ten Hag? We go 2-1 up in a game, we end up losing 3-2 in injury time. No, okay, they equalised in injury time, but it wasn't because of the style of play. It wasn't because of anything that Ruben Amorim did wrong, other than pick the goalkeeper. So it's a big frustration. For the neutral, next week's a fascinating game, and the atmosphere, the edge to the atmosphere, will probably be better because it's 2-2. But as I said before, I don't particularly trust this team. The weekend's irrelevant for me. At the Newcastle game, I'd make as many changes as I possibly could. I don't think we need to. If possible, I wouldn't pick any of the players that we're going to play on Thursday, but I don't think we've got a squad big enough to do that, unfortunately. But I certainly would be making a lot of changes, and I wouldn't be risking any of the key players. Mazraoui, I'd wrap up in cotton wool. Bruno, same. There's a few, but yeah, the game at the weekend could be a long old afternoon on Sunday because Newcastle will be right up for it. They need the points. They're in good form. For some reason, they seem to think they have a rivalry with us. Jesus, you talk about a chip on the shoulder as a fan base. Wow, but that's the only thing that I'm not bothered about on Sunday is they'll be absolutely lording it over us because they'll probably smash us on Sunday. But it really doesn't matter. Everything's on Thursday. It's a big game for us. Moving on, Eric the King has been in the news in the last week or so. So last weekend he was obviously in Manchester, and on I think it was Saturday he signed up as a member of FC United, which by the way you or I could do. It's not a big deal to do that, and the press is treating it as if like he's bought the club. Eric Cantona becomes co-owner of breakaway club FC United in statement to the Glazers. Not really. Like I could go and be a co-owner because if you are a member of FC United, you immediately become, as they call it, a co-owner. So he was there on Saturday. He was at the Derby. Well, he was at the Derby on Sunday. Been pictured with Pete Boyle, having a sing-song. He did a Q&A and he said that he thinks Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his people are destroying Man United or want to destroy Man United. He talks about the soul of the club. He talks about the decision with Ferguson. He talks about not wanting to support United if he didn't have the history that he's got with them and he already supported them. And it brings to mind something that I've spoken about on here about a year or so ago, probably, but no, near the start of the channel actually. Close to when I started the channel, I made a video saying, is it possible to love United and hate Glazer, that slogan. And I think as time goes by, it becomes harder and harder to do that because they're one of the same thing. And where do the Glazers end and United start, or where do United start and the Glazers? It's their fingerprints, their paw prints are all over United now because it's been what, 12 years since Ferguson left. So for the first 8 years of Glazers' ownership, it was really easy to love United and hate the Glazers because Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill ran the club, and we hated the owners and what they stood for, but what we saw on the pitch and the way the club was being run really was essentially still to the values that I think you, I, and most United fans would want to be upheld for our football club. Now they've had so long in charge without any protective factors like Ferguson that the way the club is run is unrecognisable, and there's not a lot left to like or love. So United, for me, I've said it before, is a concept. It's an ideology. It's an essence of something that means something to me that will mean something different to you, and that will never go away. But if I think about the values of Manchester United, they're not being upheld. So how do you love United and hate the Glazers when United have become something in the image of the Glazers, and now obviously Jim Ratcliffe? And what Jim Ratcliffe is doing, as I've said before, is taking the Manchester out of Manchester United, not putting it in. The Glazers are incompetent, and they're greedy, and they've used us and raped and pillaged us and abused us and all that provocative language that I've used before. All of that's true. I despise them. Jim Ratcliffe will come in, I imagine, and at some point make United a more financially prudent football club. He probably will be more competent than what the Glazers have been. But the thing they have in common is that they don't uphold the values of the club. So that sense of community, that sense of, as big as United are, you always have to serve and be a part of your local community, and all of those links are being severed left, right and centre. The Man United Foundation, which is a long-standing, something to be really proud of, a long-standing institution, that's something to be really proud of. It's a link between them and the club, and all the work they do with local areas and local charities and things like that. The players' charity, the local people that have been laid off in their jobs, season ticket holders who've been season ticket holders for 40, 50, 60 years, being treated like shit, and local fans being priced out. That's not putting Manchester back into Manchester United. So I repeat, how do you love United and hate the Glazers when what we're seeing in front of us is not United? This is why it would be fantastic if Amorim is able to create a team in the image of Man United's values, I suppose, because he seems like a guy that does uphold the values of our club, not because he particularly loves United or anything, just because I think he's that type of, he's got the same sort of work ethic that I would want, he's got the same standards that I would want, and I think if given the right tools, he can produce a team where then we can say, we love United, we hate the Glazers and Jim Ratcliffe. But the problem is that team can't be created because of the Glazers and Jim Ratcliffe, because they're not going to give them the money to do it because they've skinted the club. So we're back to where we started, aren't we? So it's really, really difficult. I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago in the build up to the joint protest between the 1958 and FC United. And this fella from FC United was on, called George, who was, I think, one of the founding members of the club. And he was talking about fan culture and that when they created FC United, they wanted to create something in the image of Manchester United, and ideally, what that also meant was, on a very, very, very much smaller scale, they would create a team that hopefully was quite attractive to watch. But in terms of fan culture, it's affordable. You can go and have a beer. You can go and stand where you want. You can take your beer onto the terrace. You can stand with your mates. It's really easily accessible. So that fan culture part was really important to them, of course, and you're going to get that if you go to FC United. But for me, it's the two things: you've got the fan culture and then the football. You are there to watch football. Essentially, it's not completely irrelevant. So for me, the fan culture at Man United is dead or dying on its arse. The football isn't brilliant, but there's always the hope it's going to get better, I suppose, and you're still watching a high level of football when you go and watch. I've been to FC United a couple of times recently, as I've mentioned on here, and the fan culture's quality. Like George said, you can go and have a beer, you can take it on the terrace, you can stand where you want. It's really reasonably priced in terms of like the bars reasonably priced. The tickets obviously are very reasonably priced. You can have a sing-song with your mates. No drama. Brilliant. That's one part of it. The football, on the other hand, is absolutely dire. And that's given the allowance that it's non-league football. You can still create a team at that lower level in the image of the way you want to, of what you want to watch, and it's just hoof it. The ball spends so much time in the air. Now, I'm not all for tippy-tappy football. 93-94 Man United could be direct with the best of them when they needed to be, get the ball over the top, use the pace of Kanchelskis and Giggs, cross the ball, get players on the end of it, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't need to be tippy-tappy, but it can be attractive, dynamic, quick, direct football. I'm talking just get it and twat it. And that's what FC United do. And they haven't got the players with the skill to bring it down and do anything with it. The pitch is probably 20 feet too short because they play boot it football, and the pitch is quite small. More often than not, it runs through to the goalkeeper. They've got a 5'8", 38-year-old Adam Lafondra who used to play for Reading up front. How's he going? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not getting into too much detail on it. But my point being, if you were going to go to FC United, the fan culture meant the football's terrible. Now, some people won't care about the football at all. They won't really care about progress on the pitch. They won't care whether they get a result. They won't care about what they're watching. They don't care if they identify with the players. That's fine. For me, I need a bit of both. At Man United, it's severely lacking in the fan culture, and it's lacking on the pitch as well. If you go to FC United, fan culture's decent, on the pitch is woeful. So, tricky thing is for me, I've done a bit of soul searching over the last couple of months, particularly since the announcement that Old Trafford won't be here anymore at some point, and thought, is there an alternative football experience? While my heart will always be with United, is there an alternative football experience? I've been to FC United a couple of times. I've been to took my lad to Stockport County. Truth is, ain't nothing like the real thing, baby, as they say. There's nothing like Man United. But the other problem is, Man United isn't like Man United. In my head, in my heart, in what I think it should be. So the truth is, Man United in the ideology, the essence of what I think Man United is doesn't exist anymore. And we've got a song, "We'll Never Die." But I don't know if that's true, which is really sad. Yeah, it is. It's really, really sad. Because, as I said, you go to Man United, and my idea of Man United doesn't exist. So that we could change that slogan to, instead of "Love United, Hate Glazers," it would be love what United used to be, hate what United have become because of the Glazers. Not quite as catchy, is it? So anyway, they're my thoughts. I haven't done a video for a while, so it's a bit meandering, but still very ambitious, I think, now, but still hoping to get to 50 subscribers by the end of the season. I had 24. It actually went down to 23 the other day. Don't know what that was about. Maybe someone didn't like me anymore. But if you can subscribe, that would be much appreciated. If you haven't done already. Nice one. Glazers out.